Good afternoon, everyone. I am Akash Chawda, and for the contemporary English literature's paper, I have chosen the topic of graveyard as a secular sanctuary in the Ministry of Utmost Happiness. These are my academic details. And our major quest in this presentation is that how Arundhati Roy has reimagined the graveyard, which is traditionally associated with mourning and death. So that we will see in this presentation. Published in 2017, by Arundhati Roy, The Ministry of Utmost Happiness follows a mosaic of characters. We know that this novel is a rather bulky novel and with so many characters in it, and there are so many chapterization of the novel also we can find in there, like Kwabga, Dandakaranya, Kashmir Valley, and the Jannat Guest House. All those things are there in the novel. And these all the situations and events of the novels are set against the backdrop of the politically charged India. Like we know that there are many events are portrayed that are related to the oppressed create alternative forms of community and identity. So my research question for this presentation would be how Roy portray the graveyard in the novel functions as a secular sanctuary for marginalized communities, and what does it reveal about the politics of the space. And hypothesis would be how Roy reimagines the graveyard as a heterotopic space that subverts traditional religious and cultural binaries, providing a refuge for the marginalized. This transformation not only challenges oppressive power structure but also facilitates the creation of the alternatives that we will see in this presentation. And for the theoretical frameworks, the insights by French philosopher and polymath Michel Foucault is relevant, and his insights on in his which he presented in the preface of his seminal work, The Order of the Things, in which he talks about the heterotopic places. These places are real and concrete places which exist outside of the mainstream society. These places are world within the world. So these spaces are marked by their ability to accommodate those who exist in a state of crisis. And we know that in the novel, there are multiple characters who are driven by the identity crisis or other crises also. And particularly the character of Anjum, we find that she is having identity crisis. And after facing the 2002 riots and witnessing the murder of Zakir Mia, she has that identity crisis, and she left the Kwabga and started his guest house, which is segregated from the mainstream society. At one level, it is segregated from the mainstream society, and also it is connected with the mainstream society also. They create a counter sites. Graveyard are other spaces that invert conventional and social orders, and it also in a way uh, divert from the mainstream society, and also it challenges the politics of the day. Traditional versus secular interpretation of the graveyards. Graveyards, as we know, that in the Muslim community, graveyards are sacred spaces where dead bodies are buried, and Shall I start, sir? Well, in this way, the graveyard functions not merely as a backdrop, but as a vibrant and living character in the story, because it gives accommodation to various marginalized communities, and including Hijras, Dalit, and other peoples. Reimagining the graveyard as a sanctuary of resistance and renewals. Arundhati Roy envisions a forbidden conversation between the two graveyards. She says that in this novel there are two graveyards. One is physical and one is metaphorical. The physical graveyard is that in which Anjum creates and established this Jannat guest house. And the metaphorical graveyard is Kashmir. We see that traditionally Kashmir has been referred to as a paradise of India. But after the but in today's time, in the because of the local politics and the Kashmir insurgency and all sorts of things are there, so it is no longer remained as much as such a paradise, but it has transferred into the metaphorically graveyard, which she tries to connect. And she says that the whole novel is a conversation between these two graveyards, Kashmir Valley and the Anjum's established the Jannat guest house. Arundhati Roy says that graveyard covered with a Jannat guest house and the Jannat, which is Kashmir, covered with a graveyard. While such reconfigurations are taboo in real life, fictions frees these spaces from normative constraint and subverting the conventional meanings of death and memory. And by challenging these fake historical narratives and oppressive social norms, the graveyard becomes a powerful symbol of collective identity and renewal. This graveyard act as gives agency to characters to perform in their life, and this also gives the purpose in their life also. The graveyard as a cultural and political space. Graveyard, as I've said, that serves as a dynamic home, and it challenges the static notions of the belonging. It also destabilizes the binaries such as life and death. We see that the graveyard is always associated with the death, but in that also the graveyard provides life and love and human care to all those people, the Anjum, Saddam Hussein, also all those people who lives in the graveyard. It provides life to them. And as I've said in the theoretical framework also, that this graveyard and other such heterotopic places, it exists in outside the mainstream society. And despite being existing in the outside society, it also includes such a people regardless of their cultural and social backgrounds. And it links personal histories of marginalization with the collective struggles, forging solidarity among the diverse group and renegotiation social justice in the face of oppressive regimes. Graveyard as a home for many. Well, it provides home for Hijras, Dalit, and Kashmirs. It first of all, Anjum lives there, and then comes the blind Imam, and then comes the baby who is rescued by her, an animal lover and a musician, Maulvis, Tilos, Saddam Hussein, and who is falsely accused of being a terrorist after being killed of his wife and his daughter. So, in conclusion, the Ministry of Utmost Happiness novel redefines the graveyard from a symbol of death into the dynamic and vibrant secular sanctuary where marginalized individuals thrives. And this reimagining of the graveyard critiques the oppressive narratives perpetuated by the dominant power structure. And the novel invites us to reconsider how the space deemed marginal can be transformed into vibrant sites of resistance. And to add on to my personal reflection, I want to say that during the crafting of this presentation, I had kept in mind that the traditional role of the graveyard that is given by Northrop Frye in his archetypal reading, that whenever we have studied in the semester too, that whenever such kind of gloominess or graveyards comes, then we see that something bad will come. It is kind of a bad omen. But in this, the graveyard is seen not as a bad omen, but it gives love and connection to human beings. So this kind of a deconstruction Roy had did in her work, and moreover, the idea of heterotopic places is also very much fascinated to me, because we are going in such kind of places and we even not aware about it, like graveyard. And other one important, I want to share that the shopping malls that we go, that are also being considered as a heterotopic places, in which all the peoples from all the various communities gather there, regardless of their social background or the cultural background or any kind of discrimination. They gather there and they talk with each other, and the connection happens. And these are my works cited. And thank you.
So Akash, my question is, don't you think that the concept of sanctuary and secularism are somewhat contradictory from a religious perspective?
Yes. First of all, I want to say that religion teaches us that how should we live and how we have to convey brotherhood to each fellow human beings. And in this novel, the sanctuary means something that provides a protection from outside world. So in a way, it is not so much contradictory, but one can say it may be contradictory. But in the case of novel, it also gives accommodation and it also provides protection to the various peoples. Like as I mentioned, that there are peoples like Saddam Hussein who has casted out from the one who killed his father. So in a way, it provides accommodation to various orphan peoples also. So in a way, that are my views on this question.
Ash, my question is, the graveyard is a paradoxical a site of both ending and new beginning. How does this duality reflect the larger political and existential crisis depicted in the novel?
Yes, in this novel, the graveyards does blurs the line between the life and death, and this way, how Arundhati Roy has reimagined the graveyard. And in the novel, if I talk about, then there are political, in the larger political context. If I want to say that there are riots in the Gujarat riots that we see, and because of that riots and witnessing the murder of that Zakir Mia, Anjum had thought about that she should go to the graveyard to find a purpose in her life, and for that reason she has crafted this Jannat guest house. And as I have said in the presentations also, that these provides not only accommodation but it also stand as a human connection and love, and also it gives the purpose in their life to live, because they are outcasted from the society, from the mainstream society, and that is why they have gathered in the Jannat guest house. Thank you.